That's Tanner Health. That's care redefined. Learn more at tanner.org.
Do the math. At Oak Mountain Academy, our average graduating class has just 12 students. We celebrate a 100% graduation rate with more than $10.5 million in college scholarships offered. Plus, 96% of our students are accepted into their top choice college. Do the math. Can you see the value of an OMA education? I'm Patrick Uran, head of school at Oak Mountain Academy, and I'm here to help you do the math. For more information, visit us at oakmountain.us so that you can discover your journey on the mountain, where every path leads to purpose.
National headlines and the local stories you care about. WLBB, Carrollton, News Talk 1330, FM 106.3.
Good morning. Welcome to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Gradick, your host. Delighted to have you with us, and thank you for joining us, and stay warm. Please stay warm. We're very pleased to have in studio today a candidate for U.S. Congress for the 14th District. Now, the 14th District does reach down to Polk and Paulding County, which is in our service area. But I got to meet this young lady when she was running for U.S. Senate. And now she's transitioned over to running for the 14th District, which is Northwest Georgia, the district that was held by Marjorie Taylor Greene until she resigned. And Reagan grew up in the 14th and lives there. So with that quick introduction, and then we've got a longer introduction, which y'all are going to find fascinating. But good morning, Reagan.
Good morning. I'm glad to be here.
We've got to, before we dive into it, your first name is Reagan. Mm-hmm. You're running as a Republican, so we can safely assume that you were named in honor of Ronald Wilson Reagan.
I was. Thankfully, my parents were Republican.
Well, they were probably big-time Republicans that named their daughter Reagan. So anyway, but beyond that, you've got a very unusual life journey, shall we say?
I have. So after high school, I went to college for 5 years. I studied art and history in Paris, France. I did some runway modeling jobs, did shark and sea turtle research in the Florida Keys, mission trips in Costa Rica, and then I decided there's nothing in school I like. I keep changing my major every semester. So I quit college, moved out west, and learned how to break, train, and show cutting horses on a national level. I ended up being probably one of the top 5 women in the country doing what I did. I sold a horse I trained for $200,000 to the producers of the Batman Forever series. I ended up Women's Ranch Rodeo Reserve World Champion, U.S. Cutting Horse Reserve World Champion. Even got to work for Rex Tillerson training horses while he was Trump's first Secretary of State.
Yeah, that didn't go real well.
No. And then I think it was 2018, I decided to move back to Georgia. Just left it all behind. I was missing my family, and it was hard being that far away. And so I came back home, and then 2020 happened, and I started watching the way everything was going down in our country. And I didn't like the way people were giving up their rights, freedoms, and liberties so quickly. And that started really propelling me forward. And then in 2023, I think it was, God laid it on my heart to run for office. I've always been focused on everything federally. And so I sat there and I was praying about it, and God just laid it on my heart to run. So I was like, well, Marjorie at the time was doing a good job. I really wanted her position, but I was like, the U.S. Senate needs help. So I decided to run for Senate. And when I did, I was like, they're going to just say I'm a dumb horse trainer, even though I'm really educated. So I went back to school, took 18 hours of college credit a semester, and graduated December a year ago with a bachelor's in paralegal studies.
From where?
Liberty University.
Liberty, okay.
And then, I was just doing everything, working full time, going around the state campaigning. I've went to probably 140 counties and spoken with everybody. And so, I know the issues not only for the district, but for the state.
I always have to ask when somebody says something like that, what's the main concern about, if you've been in 140 counties across the state of Georgia, I can't help but ask, what's the main couple of concerns among people, but among Georgians?
My top three are healthcare, affordability, and accessibility, public safety, and affordability, period. I think that's something that's affecting every single Georgian right now.
Is affordability a buzzword, or what does it mean in your mind?
I think because of our national debt, we are devaluing our dollar, making an inflation for the people, and it's making it hard for them to afford everyday living. I mean, right now we have 37% of Americans on some sort of welfare program, and I don't think it's because we're lazy and don't want to work. I think we're pushing people out of middle class.
That's a perfect segue into my first question that I had prepared, and here it goes. The U.S. debt is $38.5 trillion, correct? The annual deficit is $1.8 trillion. Global debt is $337 trillion. But here's the point, and that's really, it's great that you started out with this, because to me, this is the highest responsibility of the U.S. House, to which you're running for. All revenue bills start in the U.S. House. It has the quote-unquote power of the purse. But yet we have this continuing resolution scam, I would call it a scam, rather than a balanced budget, which the last time we had a balanced budget was in 2001. So the responsibility of the U.S. House is long gone. They're not living up to it.
No, they're not. And I think that's what's important about this race is we need to elect people that are hardworking Americans, not another rich person into it, because their value of $1 and our value of $1 are two different things. And so, I mean, you look at our national debt, and what I want to do is, introduce a bill where every single government agency has to pass their budget independently so we can go through and mark things off. I mean, is there one person in America that doesn't know the effects of drugs, alcohol, and tobacco? They've been rehashing the same studies since the 1960s, but yet the Congress doles out millions and millions of dollars each year to study the effects of drugs, alcohol, and tobacco. That's an easy one. Cut that out, but we have to have the bills small enough for them to honestly go through and mark things out. That's a really simple fix. You know, like another thing we can do is welfare. Like I said, 37% of Americans are on welfare. I think all capable and able-bodied people should only have 5 years on it. And while they're on it, they have to go to an apprenticeship school or trade school to learn a skill set to get out of poverty. If they're not willing to go to school, they don't get a check. But we spend $1.2 trillion annually on this. And you think about this. If we get half the people on welfare, that cuts it down to, billions of dollars instead of trillions. But not only that, if we got everyone off of it, they'd have a combined income of somewhere between $3.5 to $6.5 trillion that they'd be injecting into our economy. So it's just logical. We've got the workforce there. We desperately need those jobs. Send them to work. And so there's so many ways. We've got to get rid of bureaucracy. And there's so many government agencies right now that are redundant. Why do we need the federal EPA when we're being taxed for the Georgia EPA? Just let the Georgia EPA handle it. Get rid of that. But then we have government agencies that are antiquated. I like history. So did you know we still have the Bureau of Indian Affairs?
Well, we still have reservations. So
they're considered independent nations, even though they're American citizens.
So why do we need a federal bureaucracy to?
That's what I'm saying. But you want to know how much we pay them each year?
Along those same lines, and you make the point that for 16 years you were, like you say, wore the cowboy hat and traveled around the country. So all of the unique background that you have is a quote unquote real world, as opposed to somebody that just exited academia and went into Congress. But you also make a point, which I've spoken about quite a few times, and just to dovetail on what you were saying, that rural America is really under threat by the federal government. Of course, we're in West Georgia. Northwest Georgia, not so much, but the urban sprawl of Metro is such. But how does the bureaucracy in the federal government, do you think, threaten rural America?
Well, we need to use the Sherman Antitrust Act to break up big agriculture. You think about Monsanto, which I don't know if you know this, but Monsanto, their seeds they sell, they've made them where they're genetically superior,
like
and they
proprietary.
They won't have they won't get hurt by like pesticides and herbicides and stuff. And the way Monsanto does their licenseship, you're not allowed to save your seeds from year to year to replant. You have to buy the seeds every year. That costs more money. So we need to break up the trusts like Tyson and Monsanto. I think that would help cheapen the cost for farmers and in turn cheapen the cost for us. That whole affordability issue. We've turned everything into these monopolies and trusts, which is illegal by our government, but yet the DOJ does nothing about it. So I'm all for Congress strong arming the DOJ and say, no, you start going after this. Even with the medical and pharmaceutical companies, you think about it, they charge these outrageous prices, and it doesn't have to be this way.
You talk about crony capitalism.
Yeah. I mean, it's not effective for the American people. And essentially, we've nationalized everything and made it where the common man can't afford what they need. Which is one kind of definition of socialism, where government controls the means of production. We've done it with healthcare, with Obamacare. Yeah. We've nationalized it, unfortunately. And I think that's why prices have skyrocketed so much. You look with Obamacare, that one position they created in it called a PBM, Pharmaceutical Benefits Manager. It benefits nobody. And yet, if we get rid of that one position, it will lower our medical costs by a third. Our guest this morning is Reagan Box, candidate for U.S. Congress, 14th District, Northwest Georgia. She's a resident of the 14th District, grew up there, and we're going to have more with Reagan after these words.
Imagine a place where every heartbeat is monitored with the utmost care, where emergencies are met with swift attention, and where cutting-edge technology enables precise and timely treatments. At Tanner Health, every patient's journey is a testament to resilience, a story of strength, healing, and hope. We go beyond treatment to redefine what compassionate care truly means. That's Tanner Health. That's care redefined. Learn more at tanner.org.
Oak Mountain Academy specializes in a customized designed academic approach tailored to meet the needs of our families. Our lower division prepares students with the necessary foundation to build excellence. Our middle division provides students with over 15 course offerings, providing them with opportunities to explore their talents and gifts. Our upper division provides personalized academic journeys, allowing them to achieve their dreams. I'm Patrick Uran, head of school, inviting you to journey with us. For more information, visit us at oakmountain.us, where every path leads to purpose.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Community Voice. We're very pleased to have Reagan Box in the studio, candidate for U.S. Congress, 14th District, which includes Polk and Paulding counties. The district you may have heard of that was, held by Marjorie Taylor Greene for a number of years. And so she's resigned, she's gone, and I'm not going to ask you anything about that. So, I mean, who really cares? Anyway, let's jump into this. I certainly don't want to let you get through the program without at least putting our toe into the water, as they say. But there are 12 sanctuary states in America, 1,000 jurisdictions nationwide. If you were elected to the U.S. House, what would you do to eliminate sanctuary states? Well, this is where good AGs, and we've got to push our DOJ to enforce the laws we have. Technically, it's illegal. U.S. Code 18, Section 2, aiding and abetting criminals.
if you're here illegally, you're a criminal. If you're giving them a sanctuary state, a sanctuary city, a job, or housing, you're aiding and abetting a criminal. Start going after these people using the laws we have.
Let's go ahead and insert, because I think this is good. We're trying to, get to know you, and we're trying to stay focused on Congress. But you were telling me that you've got a rich heritage in your family of law enforcement, correct?
Yes, sir. My grandfather was the youngest member of the FBI, signed on at 19 years old. He was sheriff of Walker County. He was part of the largest drug bust in U.S. history up until probably the 2000s. But in 83, he stopped $8 billion worth of drugs from coming into Northwest Georgia.
What do you think about the border crisis as it related to fentanyl and all of the things associated with that?
So I tell people, the wall is great, but it's not going to stop the cartel. They're making too much money off of human trafficking and drugs for this to stop. So I think our military needs to work with the governments in Central and South America and start exterminating the cartel. That's the only way this is going to stop. This is also a scary fact. Because of the cartel, because of the human trafficking, Georgia is number 2 in the nation for human trafficking. Mm-hmm. So I'm wanting to earmark federal money to get our cops trained on human and sex trafficking, because the I-75 corridor and the Atlanta-Hartsfield International Airport is a hub for it.
Yeah, you remember that story where 23 TSA agents, I believe it was in Atlanta, but at least maybe that was a different city, but they were involved in smuggling drugs through Atlanta Airport. I mean,
it's absolutely horrible. And so I feel like until we start getting rid of the cartel, this is going to continue to happen. And like I tell people, you've got to realize if they dig 30 miles worth of tunnels to get El Chapo out of prison, that wall isn't going to stop them. They're going to find a way around it.
Well, similarly, let's just kind of stay semi-related. We see what some have called the Donald Doctrine, or what used to be the Monroe Doctrine, which I would contend is somewhat possibly preparation for the threat of communist China. Mm-hmm. But whether it's Greenland or Venezuela or Panama, the cartels are all part of that. What do you think about the influence of communist China in all of these areas?
It's really scary. And, like I know people have mixed feelings on Venezuela and Trump getting Maduro, but I think there's more to it. Most people don't realize that in Venezuela, both Russia and China train troops there. And they train the Venezuelan military, and they help train the gang members on military tactics and drop them off at our border. That's a threat that we really need to start looking at and just attacking and approaching.
And also their support of the cartels. Mm-hmm. And so I think all that is all relatable. I asked you about, before we go to the next break in a couple of minutes, tell us, for those who don't know, and I have some familiarity with the 14th District, or what was the 7th, but tell us about, you mentioned across the state affordability, but I would think that the 14th District is probably one of the more conservative districts in the entire state, if not the country. What's the perspective there? Is it just similar as across the state, or is there something unique to it?
I think we're kind of more outlaw vigilante in the 14th. There's a reason we call ourselves the Mighty 14th. People there aren't afraid to stand up. They're not afraid to fight. It's funny growing up in Chickamauga. In case you don't know, it was the second bloodiest battle of the Civil War. And so my grandparents being from Iowa, and then my dad's family being from the South, it was an interesting perspective growing up. But I think the people there, they just want what is true and what is right. They're tired of all the political games. They're tired of the drama. They just want to be treated right. And when you see your government spending like $81 million through USAID to give Chelsea Clinton married, they know something's wrong. When your government,
look who she married, the son of George.
Well, like I tell people, let's be honest, if we were going to have to make Hillary Clinton our mother-in-law, we'd have to get paid off too.
Yeah, I suppose.
I mean, but you look at what's going on with the Epstein list and stuff like that. I mean, if our country's protecting pedophiles, maybe we need to fall, because there's something just essentially wrong with our hearts and souls if we can stomach that. And so I think people just want someone to stand up for what's right and what's true. We're tired of the drama.
Until we get some transparency on the intelligence community, I mean, the trust in government's going to be minimal.
There has been nothing went on to keep a check on the CIA and FBI since the 1977 church committees. And I don't think, I know some things can't be released to the public, but for those oversight committees on those groups, I don't think they should be able to plead the fifth or redact anything. Like Congress needs to know what's going on, and Congress doesn't have that. They get information where it's basically all black, where it's redacted, and I don't think that should be legal or right.
Kennedy said he was going to take the CIA and shatter it and splinter. What was it? Splinter it and scatter it to the winds. He didn't get the opportunity to do that.
Well,
that probably cost him his life.
Yeah, it probably did. I look at everything, and you look at the connections, and I watch the conspiracies just because I like to learn everything. It doesn't mean I believe it all, but I mean, George W. Bush was there, one of them trying to get his casket in the plane.
Well, even beyond that, you named about Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan, 6 months, I think, into his presidency, there was an assassination attempt. Nancy kind of flipped out. So who ran the Reagan administration? George H.W. Bush.
Yeah, and it's happened time after time. It happened when Truman had a stroke, I think it was. His wife stepped in.
Yeah, so, but H.W.'s got his fingerprints are all over everything. You mentioned Kennedy all the way up to Afghanistan and Iraq.
Oh, so. Yeah. Our government doesn't need to interfere in other countries. I feel like if the people aren't overthrowing their government, if they don't like it, then we shouldn't interfere. And really, we've created a lot of instability in the world by doing that. Saddam wasn't a great man by any means, but he kept everyone kind of beat down, and then we left a vacuum where everyone was trying to fill it.
Well, I mean, look at the situation with Iran right now. I mean, it's Jimmy Carter that pretty much helped overthrow the Shah. And so right now we've got an armada, ready to poised to do something on Iran after, I think it was 79 that the Shah went out. So it continues when you got to clean up a mess that you made earlier.
Well, and that's why I think we need to have limits on emergency orders and executive orders too. I mean, we are still under federal emergencies that Carter put into place in, like you said, 78, 79.
Well, but that comes back to the basically Congress, U.S. House, primarily with the power of the purse, has given up, abrogated its responsibility under the Constitution, correct?
It has. So one of the things I'm pushing for, because I see why Trump's having to do this stuff he's done through executive orders, but like FDR wrote 3,721 executive orders. Coolidge was second place with 1,500. And a lot of the progressive ideologies that we're having trouble with today in our society came from that. And so what I want to do is put a 4-year sunset limit on executive orders where if Congress doesn't codify it within 4 years, it becomes null and void, and make that retroactive to like 1910 so we just kind of get a clean slate on our government.
Our guest this morning is Reagan Box, named after Ronald Reagan, and she'll be back, and she's running for the Congress 14th District, held by the one and only Marjorie Taylor Greene, and we'll be back after this.
Imagine a place where every heartbeat is monitored with the utmost care, where emergencies are met with swift attention, and where cutting-edge technology enables precise and timely treatments. At Tanner Health, every patient's journey is a testament to resilience, a story of strength, healing, and hope. We go beyond treatment to redefine what compassionate care truly means. That's Tanner Health. That's care redefined. Learn more at tanner.org.
Oak Mountain Academy is a vibrant community built on innovation, academic excellence, and a 64-year legacy of shaping community leaders. I'm Patrick Uran, head of school at Oak Mountain Academy, inviting you to visit the mountain and experience firsthand the passion, purpose, and personalized education that defines our school. Come see how our mission and vision come to life each day. For more information, visit us at oakmountain.us so that you can discover your journey on the mountain, where every path leads to purpose.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Graddick, your host. We've got Reagan Box in the studio, a candidate for U.S. Congress, 14th District. Last time I had State Senator Matt Brass on, not long ago, he was Chief of Staff for Lynn Westmoreland at one time, and we were talking about we used to have Milledgeville, Northwest Georgia. We had Northwest Regional Hospital. We had state facilities that were taking care of the mental patients. What's your current view about the role of government, state and federal, in terms of mental health?
We need it desperately. So in 1955, we had 345 beds per 100,000 people for mental health needs. Today, we have 11.7 beds per 100,000 people. In my Senate race, I went all across the state, 140 counties, spoke to nearly every sheriff in the state, and they said that's the biggest issue they're having. They say 60% of their jails are filled up with the mentally ill. And, that's not fair for the jailers. They're not trained on how to take care of them. They don't have the equipment and medication to take care of them. And it's not fair for the mentally ill. That's a big segment of our homeless population is the mentally ill. They just can't function well enough to keep up an apartment or housing or anything like that. So I think it's the best thing for our society to bring it back. One of the sheriffs I spoke to in South Georgia, he told me he had an inmate there for 1,300 days before he could get a bed for an inmate for his mental health problems. And it's just super sad to me. We've got to do better as a society. This is adding to crime, homelessness, and so many other issues.
And cost to the taxpayer. You said they're in the jails. Mm-hmm. And the sheriff's departments are tasked with taking care of them, correct?
Yeah.
So that's a burden on the local taxpayer.
It is.
So what's the solution?
We need mental health care facilities where these people get the help they need. It's okay to have mental health issues, but we don't need to normalize it anymore. We need to get people help.
Well, the criticism of like the Northwest Georgia Regional Medical Center and Milledgeville was, and I think Jimmy Carter held to this according to Matt Brass, that he didn't want to see people institutionalized for their entire lives.
There are some people, it doesn't matter. They're going to need that help the rest of their life. They can't fit into society. I would like to see it where we go back to kind of like in the 1800s, early 1900s, where people would set up farms and stuff and let the more benign people whose illnesses where maybe they couldn't fit into society, but they could go have a garden and pick food and kind of be in charge of that. Where we give people a good quality of life, but it's not necessarily an institution with cold walls and iron beds and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's one near Anniston, I believe, that is kind of what you're describing.
Yeah.
But it's very humane.
Yeah, it is. And it's more humane than letting them go hungry on the street or be out of their heads. I was in Rome the other day in a parking lot. I saw this one homeless guy, and I'm going to assume he was mentally ill. He's just sitting out there crying and screaming. Mm-hmm. And it really breaks my heart. We've got to do better by these people. Letting them be on the streets like that isn't humane either.
Mm-hmm. Okay. We're gonna go till 5 after. It's almost obligatory. You have to ask, if you're elected, would you support term limits?
I would. So Thomas Jefferson said, when politics becomes a career, corruption is sure to follow. And we see it in our government today. They've written laws to protect themselves. We saw it in, I think it was about a year ago, they were trying to pass the budget, and Schumer and some of the Democrats were trying to put in pork in the bill, stating that they couldn't be tried for crimes that they did while in office and just trying to protect themselves. That's ridiculous. That's not their job. If you do something wrong, this is a nation of rule of law.
But the Congress would have to vote term limits in, so that's not going to happen.
Well, the only way I think it would happen is if you did a grandfather clause, where if you're in there now, it doesn't apply to you. Because we all know they're self-centered enough where if it doesn't affect them personally, they'd go for it.
We see a lot of reports about insider trading, restrictions on that, I would assume, correct?
Yeah. I think there should be restrictions on that. One of the issues I fought for in the Senate that I'll continue fighting for is I don't think you should have dual citizenship and be able to serve in Congress. Right now we have over 100 members of our Congress that have dual citizenship. It's a simple conflict of interest.
Big topic. I understand the president is trying to have all the data centers moved to federal land. Everybody's got an opinion about data centers and AI and its future. Nobody really knows, I don't think. But it's not being, having questionable viewpoints about the motives of the federal government. Data centers are just that. All our data ends up on these supercomputers at data centers. Is that a concern?
Well, to me, that's more of a state issue, but what I want to say about it is who do you want to control your future and who do you want to control your data? I would rather it be here in America than overseas somewhere. The next issue, and I spoke to a friend of mine out in Texas actually building data centers out there, we need to pass state laws mandating that they pay for all the electricity and water. But most of the data centers they're building out in Texas it's a closed loop system, which means they have a retention pond and they just keep recycling their water. So they wouldn't continue to pull it out of our streams like a lot of people think. If we do it that way and they're paying for everything, I don't see an issue.
With a name like Reagan, I guess these next two questions go without saying. I assume you're a very strong supporter of the Second Amendment.
I am. It kills me when I hear a politician say, well, you don't need that gun for hunting. I'm like, the Second Amendment has nothing to do with hunting.
Similarly, I assume you're pro-life?
I am.
Okay. Ronald Reagan was very pro-life.
I am. I think so many of our government policies, including abortion, they have taken away from accountability and just responsibility for your own actions. And I think that's where we're at today. You see people and they don't want to be responsible for the repercussions of what they say and do.
Well, when government takes over more and more of a person's life and responsibility itself, then it's just only logical.
It goes back to the simple word self-govern that's in our founding documents all the way to the Mayflower Compact. You can't be self-governed without the morals and principles you find in religion. And since we've taken religion out of most people's lives, you can't be self-governed, so you have to become a nation of laws and lawfare.
And Adam said for a constitutional republic, it's made for wholly religious and moral people, and not for anything, not for anyone else.
Yeah,
something to that effect, anyway.
He says that it's for a morally and just people.
Yeah.
And so
wholly inadequate for anyone else.
Yeah. We've got to go back to that. And like I tell people, I will work tirelessly to change the policies. But if we really want to change our nation, we've got to get involved in our communities and start changing hearts and souls. That's where the change really comes.
If someone wants to learn more about the Reagan Box campaign, how should they do it? And what kind of help are you soliciting?
So my website is reaganboxforcongress.com. You can go there. My Facebook page is Reagan Box U.S. House 2026. And, we all have so many contacts on our phone. People can simply just text message their contacts and say, hey, she's a real deal. She's fighting for the real thing. If you're in the 14th, vote for her. If not, just give a simple donation. I mean, it takes 10,000 people to do $10 a month, and I'd have 100,000 a month coming into my campaign. And that's more than enough to make this work and to win and fight for our country.
Our gratitude this morning to Reagan Box, candidate for the U.S. Congress, 14th District. Thank you for coming in, and hopefully to have you back someday.
Thank you very much. It's been fun.
All right, go out and make it a great day. You're in tune to WLBB Carrollton.